Hey everybody, welcome to week 2 of our 1101 course. Mr. Volpe with you guys again, as I will be around this time each and every week. So I want to go ahead and review what we looked at last week, the 3 assignments that we had. One, the discussion board, and I'll be referring to my little agenda here from time to time, so excuse me if I look off into the right here. So week 1 we read the Grow Light Blues. That serves as the basis for your no-show assignment. Basically, if you've completed the assignment to the expectations that I have there in the forum, you will not be listed as a no-show and you will receive full credit. So that should be an easy 100. Usually what I'll do, if you do half of the assignment for a discussion board, meaning you just provide a response and not respond to another student's post, you'll get a B. So you'll at least get an A or a B, hopefully an A on this. So a little bit about that story. It's become a favorite of mine within the last few years, just because it kind of appeals to my personal sensibilities, how I view the world and people, whatever is to be said for that. It's a dark story. It's a funny story. There might be some hint at redemption at the end. I like that ambiguity that the story kind of teases you with. Generally speaking, I like ambiguity in my art, just so long as it's done with honesty and conviction and isn't too waffly. I think Ben Marcus nails it for the most part in this, and it's kind of dystopian and weird, and it's right up my alley. And it asks you to buy in as a reader. You have to buy into this world where people inject photons into their skin via light for nutritional purposes. It's kind of makes you think of the way of the future. Food becomes disgusting and laborious. Why not just absorb that light? Makes it more efficient, after all. We're all about efficiency. So the other stories that we read, one I'm going to call more of a story, in the sense that it's more of a narrative with an arc, and we have more of a discernible character who's sort of is in more of a recognizable framework of a story. That is George Orwell's Shooting an Elephant. The Alan Dean Foster story essay, to me, is more of an account, more than it is an actual story. Surely something is happening. He's recounting that fire that took place in Arizona, where he lives, and he's talking about fires in general in the Southwest. That you have to kind of make that compromise with Mother Nature when you live in one of these places. Being from New Orleans, I know this all too well. I live in Florida now. Hurricanes are a fact of life. When I was growing up, every year it was, hey, we're going to evacuate. When Katrina came, that was 2005, I was just about to turn 21 years old at that time. I went to LSU thinking I would just be up there with my friends at the time, and I'd come back the next week just like normal. That was not the case, of course. So I think that's what Foster's dealing with, or talking about, how home is home, no matter where you are. There's a really great line in the story, in the essay, where if we all lived where it's safe, we'd all be a huddled mass of shivering people, and we wouldn't even be safe. I think a more successful narrative in this course would be more along the lines of the Orwell piece, sort of in that same tone at least. There's a conflict in the Orwell story. We have our protagonist, the narrator. It's nonfiction. Orwell himself is a member of the Guard in India at the time, the Imperial Guard, and he has to make a decision. Does he shoot this elephant? And you could really get a sense of that inner conflict within him. It is very much a internal and external conflict that we have in the Orwell piece. And he has to justify his actions. He has to go through this kind of ethical calculation within himself, trying to decide what is the right thing to do. He's hated by the natives. He realizes he has a role to play. He's very resentful against the British imperial regime as well. He does his duty. I think that's what that piece is about. Your duty versus your kind of conscience. And we see those two things grappling, coming at loggerheads there in the story. So I want to look at the Orwell piece, most importantly, as more of a model for your narrative. So I told you all that it's going to be you focusing on a singular moment. So the topic is a particularly life-changing experience. You could see, reading this, even the Foster piece, that fire, when he saw the smoke outside that day, he knew it wasn't just a, hey, this is going to blow over soon. It's, hey, we got to gather the kids, the dog, etc. Time to go. Okay, so in Orwell, it's, it's the moment when he's faced with the elephant, when he's faced with the people. He has his orders. What does he do? And he finally does it. And after he does it, he hears an account of how long it took that elephant to finally die. And you could just imagine the agonizing torment that animal had to go through. And Orwell knows that very well. Kind of imagining the blood coming out of him, the people hacking him to bits. After all, he's food, this elephant. This is the cruel reality that is nature, that is life. It's not pretty. It's not a fairy tale. Imperialism was a thing. It happened, okay? Still happens today to some degree. There's still imperial holdovers, colonies, etc., not to the degree of 150, 200, etc., years ago. But this is how nations were formed. Conquest. It wasn't smiling faces and handshakes, okay? So we have to grapple with these things and recognize that. Doesn't mean it's good or bad per se. It is what it is. So as you're answering those questions, especially with the Orwell piece, keep all that in mind. So look at my agenda here. I'm going to pivot now to you all, your assignment. So we have the narrative. That is our first essay, 10% of your overall course grade. That is going to be due next Sunday, the 21st. MLK Junior Day is Monday, the 15th. I presume you all don't have school that day. You should be working this week on drafting that essay and giving me a final version that will be graded by Sunday. So what that means is you could submit a rough draft or anything, any scratch work, any pre-writing, a tentative thesis, whatever, throughout the week. Really, ideally, if you want to get it to me and me turn it around to you in a timely fashion, let's go ahead and say you could email me a rough draft or something like that, no later than Thursday night, midnight, let's say, okay, for me to turn it back around to you throughout the week by, say, Friday at the latest, so that you have ample time to read my comments and suggestions so that you could turn in something you're proud of a couple days later that Sunday. So, okay, our expectations. Say 4 to 5 paragraphs. That is an introduction with your thesis statement as the last sentence of that introduction. Say your topic is the day I conquered my fear of roller coasters. I know something about this. I'm not too fond of roller coasters. When I was a kid, I was dragged, sometimes literally kicking and screaming, to ride them at Disney World. As an adult now, it's not a big deal, but when I was a kid, it was terrifying. So maybe I could write my narrative, and my thesis would be on that topic. When I approached Big Thunder, it's a roller coaster in Disney World, my knees started to knock, and I knew this was it. That could be my thesis statement. It kind of sets us up. It kind of sets some tension, some suspense. We want to read on to know, well, what is happening. I could describe the moment when I'm going up the roller coaster. You know, that kind of foreboding you get, that pit in your stomach, those butterflies. You know you're going to get to the apex of that roller coaster, and then you're going to come crashing down, and all you can do is scream. You just have to go with it. Okay, so maybe that moment that I rode Big Thunder, Thunder Mountain as it's also called, taught me how to conquer my fears in general, in life in general. So again, you are talking about a revelatory, meaningful moment in your life that maybe even changed your life, okay? So that should be evident. I should hear sounds, I should see sights, I should maybe taste flavors, perhaps, or feel things. Use figurative language, use concrete language. What I mean by that is figurative language, metaphor, simile. Going up the roller coaster was hell, okay? Not literally hell, okay? metaphorically speaking, it was like you were being tortured. Okay, figurative language. You also want to use concrete imagery. Let me see. Again, you want to appeal to the reader's senses. Okay, I whooshed down the decline of the ramp, that drop, and I felt my guts rise to my throat. Okay, you could argue that that's concrete and figurative at the same time, but I think you get my drift there. It's pretty graphic nonetheless. So language like that, folks. So let me picture it as though you are holding me by the hand and I am going along with you, experiencing the things, the sights, the sounds, all of it. Show, don't tell. That is the magical, cliche maxim of any writer, student, or professional. You want to show, you want to illustrate the events. You don't want to just talk at us. We want to see it along with you, okay? So, come to me, come to Miss Evans throughout the week. If we could be of any help at all, we'll be happy to. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right here, guys. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to grading your work from week 1, turning that back around to you this week as well. So let's keep the communication open. Oh, also about that, I'm going to set up a blog each week where you all can just kind of talk, vent, and tell me if you liked the stories that we read that week, if you didn't like them, whatever. It's just a place for you to just kind of let it all out there. I'm not going to grade it. I might grade it if you don't participate, though. So I'm going to set up blog 1 this week, say Monday or Tuesday. I'd like to see you all participating in that, and I'll have a question for you to answer, a prompt to help you kind of get started. But I'm going to do a blog each week. So it's just, again, a place where we could just kind of let our hair down, as it were. Keeping the conversation, your diction professional and respectful, though, of course. So be on the lookout for that as well. And check out the announcement for this week. Basically is reiterating the highlights of everything I'm telling you right here. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and shut it off there. So Mr. Volpe here, wishing you well this week. Go Saints. Sorry about those Falcons. Not sorry. Go Saints, go Jags, and have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.